Well, as you know, I'm Jerry Gordon, and what I want to do with you tonight is share a little bit about winter starvation prevention. One of the problems we're having right now is it's been too warm. How many of you guys already have bees that are up into your candy boards or sugar? How many of you haven't checked yet? Okay, well, it's a good time to do it. When we get the nice days, not so much now because we've gotten the colder, but what I'm going to do is give you a little synopsis on how to deal with it. Basically, what it amounts to in a nutshell is restructuring any honey frames that you got in there, swapping it around, moving your cluster back down, and this has got to be done on a nice day. So then at that point you can add more sugar on top or whatever you're using for additional food. There you go. So you can see this is dead bees. One thing you notice, their butts are sticking out, okay? Queen, dead, right there.
Talk this way.
So, what's that?
Talk this way.
Okay. What we're looking at is a shot of some dead bees, cluster of dead bees on the comb. And that's like our worst case scenario, right? So what we want to do is we want to prevent that. The 5 whiskey hotels of starvation prevention, it's a polite way of saying winter beekeeping. Wouldn't it be nice if you could put them away in the fall and then in the spring when they start flying on their own, hey, yeah, nice to see you again. But no, sometimes we have to get in there and check them on any of the nice days. So take those opportunities to get in there, see what's going on. We want to know if the hive has food available, because there's been a number of you that have said, my bees are dead, and they had plenty of food. So try to decipher why, so next year, or in another hive that you've got, that doesn't happen. It's usually moisture. You know, ventilation is one of the biggest killers of bees. Bees can deal with a lot, but over the winter, moisture is not one of them. That's their enemy. The reason we're doing it is to prevent starvation. When every good weather day, you should be out there checking them. Not like every consecutive day, but if you've got once a week where there's a nice day during the winter, crack it open and take a look. And what you want to do is if you're just taking a peek, 35 degrees and sunny, because you're going to get a few that come out, they're going to sit there and they're not going to have much energy once they get out because their body's going to cool very quickly. If you have to open it up and restructure it, like what I'm going to show you, you want 45 degrees and sunny, because then it's enough heat, it's enough ambient temperature heat from where they land that they'll be able to get back to where they need to be, okay? Who's accountable when these bees starve to death? We are, yeah, because we're their caretakers. So we want to do the best we can, and collectively as a group, we want to educate and work with each other to become better beekeepers so we don't suffer these winter losses. Where are we going to get our information from? As I've shared in the past with the Hive Journals, keep a Hive Journal so you know what's going on. If you got plenty of resources, you can sometimes kind of lay back a little bit more. But if they're cutting that margin to where they're running out of food, you need to make note of that. Make note of the temperature you're checking. Keep a journal on what's going on. The Hive Journal sheet is available through Facebook page, or I think we even have it on the website if you need a copy of that. So you're going to refer back to your notes, and as you go through winter and you're checking your bees, keep notes on them then too, because that's going to help you next year to know what you did right and what you did wrong. Okay. What we want to do is we want to develop a strategy and follow through with it. So don't say, hey, next Sunday I'm going to get into them and not get around to it. You have to, they're your bees, you need to take care of them, get in there that day. Doesn't take long, get in there, look at them, develop a strategy. Say, hey, maybe it's just a little bit too cold to restructure it. Plan the next time you have a good day, get in there and do it. Don't put it off. This is your cluster going into fall. It's in the bottom, okay? This is their stores. This represents the stores. So as we get into winter, they start working their way up. And what are they doing? They're tunneling up, eating their resources up, right? Okay. So what we're going to talk about next is restructuring their resources before it's too late. When they get up into the sugar, it's really hard to get them back down, okay? So what I want you to do is, before they bust through, have a plan to restructure it, okay? As we look at this, they've consumed all this honey, but look how much honey is left on the outside. Quite a bit. You know, if you figure, what's the average super frame weigh? No, the single frames. What do they weigh? About 3 pounds a piece, somewhere in that area. So of that, we can add another about 12 pounds of natural food above them by using this method. Okay, plus whatever sugar you got, or whatever, you know, whether you're using candy board or mountain camp or whatever method you're using to give them additional food. So what you're going to be doing is taking your top 3 supers, switching them so that your one that the cluster's in, which represents this one, gets moved down. There's nothing you can do with this part. Okay, so you just leave that alone. Move the cluster down, squeeze your frames in from the outside. See how that's done? And then they have more food to work their way up, okay? That's the goal. Give them something, some additional natural food. Sugar, just like sugar without straight sugar, doesn't have the minerals and other things they sometimes need to get by, to keep them healthy. So they're gonna come out of it a lot healthier in the spring if you let them consume some of their own natural foods, okay? And this is a breakdown, closer view of it. Here's your cluster, and here's your 8 frames of honey that come from the super. So we can get into details of all the numbers and which ones to move where, but the key is get the honey towards the inside where the cluster's at. You know, how many of you guys have already seen your clusters moving to the south side of your hive and up the edge? That's usually an indicator they're trying to get away from moisture too. So watch that your hive doesn't get too much moisture, because then they'll start drifting off to one side, going to where the heat is, to get that natural ambient heat from the sun warming your hives. Okay? Next thing I want to do is I want to move into, we're going to continue on with this section. Okay. Expanding your apiary. It's kind of bad that we just got done talking about bees that died. You know, that's kind of the rough spot. But in the spring, you look at it and say, well, got to replace the bees somehow. There's a lot of ways to do it, and we're going to discuss them. You want to help me out with this one? So, you got choices: packages, nukes, whole hives, and then swarms. This is what a typical package looks like. And the reason we're doing this is because there's probably some of you that don't have bees yet. Does anybody not have bees that's going to be getting bees? Okay. So, yeah, there's quite a few. I want you to know what you're getting into before that time comes. I want you to see so that when it's hands-on, you know what to expect. All right? This is a package of bees. And you can see it's a particularly healthy package because there's almost no dead on the bottom. Within this cluster, there's a queen in a box, in a queen cage, and there's also a can of sugar syrup within that. So you're going to pop this lid. One of the easiest ways of doing this is take the queen, move her to your new hive, set this up in front of it or on top of it. They're going to smell her. They're going to go that direction. Okay?
Depending on the temperature.
Yeah, depending upon the temperature. One of the problems is sometimes packages get brought up into this area too early in the season. For example, this last year, a lot of people were doing this in the snow, putting bees in the snow. That's hard on the bees, especially when they don't have any resources. They're just a package.
Yeah.
If they don't have any drawn comb, all they're going to do is just sit there and cluster and freeze until they get the chance to get out and forage and start building wax and things like that. So they've got no food, no nothing at that point. So it's May seems to be a good time when things are stable. We get in April. We never know what day we're going to have snow in April, how late it's going to be, how warm it's going to be. So,
And if anybody has a clue what's going on with this winter and spring, let us know. It's crazy.
Yeah, really.
okay. On the topic of packages, here's the good about packages. They are usually a little bit cheaper, and sometimes it has more bees. I've seen bees for sale locally as nukes, and they've been pretty poor quality nukes. You know, a couple frames of bees, and that's about it. We're going to get into nukes next. But as far as the bad with bees, with packages, sometimes you get a lot of dead bees in the package, and they allow up to about inch and a half is typical. Inch and a half of dead bees on the bottom. That's thousands of them before they'll warranty them and give you a new package. That's bad news in my book. You've got to introduce the queen. With the package, that queen has not been properly introduced to the rest of the workers, and you never know whether they're going to accept her or not. And trust me, I know. I have bought packages for myself in the past. I wound up with laying worker packages. Try to straighten that out. You start throwing...
Maybe we'll do that this year. Talk about that.
Okay, a laying worker, it came from a laying worker hive. They shook in a hive because the way packages are made, they will shake them literally into those boxes to make up that quantity and poundage. The bees can come from multiple hives, and if one of them is a laying worker hive, meaning they don't have a queen and they are producing only drones, then you've got problems.
Or they shook a queen already, and you
Yeah.
got another queen, and they're
Yeah,
fighting
sometimes you
already.
wind up with multiple queens in there too. So that's one of the disadvantages of packages. It takes them a lot longer to establish as a package with no drawn comb than a nuke or a hive. So that's another disadvantage to a package. Packages don't get going quick enough in the spring to be strong. I mean, it can be summer before you start to say, okay, now we've got something finally going, because they got to get that comb drawn out, and
They gotta accept the queen,
Yeah,
release
gotta-
the queen,
gotta release the
accept the
queen.
queen, draw the comb. She's gotta get laying, and then you get a big lull of the older bees are gonna be dying off before the new ones are coming along.
right. And that lull is where you start to see your hive die off, and you're like, what's going on with this? We got a problem.
You don't have foragers.
Because we're going to go into, in the pheromone state, we're going to pick up on what we leave off here, and we're going to go through the life cycle of the bee briefly. So, nukes. Nukes are good because you get an established queen. What you're getting is however many frames your nukes are, with an established queen that's got brood in it, and X number of frames of bees. Okay? So you got basically a known established hive, or a portion of a hive. It's functioning, the queen's laying, it's producing future generations. Okay? You've got foragers in there, you've got nurse bees, and they'll take better care of a queen in that situation compared to a package, because chances are you're going to have more nurse bees in a nuke than a package. Okay? And they will have already been established with her. They'll continue to take care of her. Drawn comb. To me, anytime you get the chance to get bees with drawn comb, for me, I put the value of a frame at about $8 a piece, because you've got the wax on it, you've got the frame, foundation, and then you've got the resources. So it gets those bees up and going and stronger quicker. So keep that in mind. And then we talk about resources. You know, you're getting honey. You might be getting 3-4 pounds of honey, 5 pounds of honey in that. And that honey's got value. Everybody knows that, you know, when you go to sell honey, you know it's got value to it. So when those nukes are made up, that's something that the person that makes them up, they have to account for that in the price too. That's what they're losing, because establishing a nuke is got its expenses, like pollen. You know, the pollen costs money. So when they package that together, that's got value.
A package you're gonna have to feed, unless you have an older hive that you have some resources you can give at it.
Okay. Typically, and you know, it's funny because this was something that Greg and I were talking about last night, was it?
Yeah.
What to expect when you get a nuke. And you know, one topic that, you know, gets brought up every year is buy nukes or packages or full hives. If you can afford a full hive, sure, buy a full hive. I mean, then you've got something that's already rocking, it's established, it's going. But for most people, it's buying a nuke and letting it build. So what we want to do is we want to break down what you should be getting. It should be five frames of drawn comb with bees. Okay, you should be getting 90% or better drawn comb. There's people that sell 2 or 3 frames of bees with resources with 2 frames of drawn comb. You've seen that out there too. And they're not really giving you anything except a couple frames of bees, you know, and a little bit of resources. So make sure it's got what you expect, okay? And ask those questions when you go to somebody to buy them. Make sure you're getting what you expect. No empty frames. They say, oh, so that they can expand. Well, the idea in buying a nuke and spending the money on a nuke isn't to
expand
allow
in
them
your
to
hive.
expand into a nuke.
Right.
It's to expand a nuke into a hive. So don't let them short you. We're going to break it down like this. 3 frames of mostly brood. So you want to see roughly 75% coverage on those frames of brood. You want to see that she is working, she is laying, things are looking good. Even if it's not capped brood, you're going to see eggs, larvae, and then you're going to see where they've hatched out. So it might be in a partial cycle of life too.
You're gonna get a ring.
Right. And you get a ring of honey on it. You're typically going to get 1 frame with nectar or honey. Make sure it looks good. Make sure it's enough food, because when you get that in the spring, if there's nothing flowing, you're going to be sitting there feeding your bees syrup. So that's one of the benefits of getting something that's better quality. Okay? It's got the resources that those bees need. That's what's fair to them.
Nothing bloomed last year till about late April, early May.
Yeah.
Right.
Then pollen. They need that pollen. What do they need that pollen for?
Making brood.
Making brood. Exactly.
Babies.
An established queen. You're not running the risk of introducing a queen that they don't like. It's something that they're used to, that they've been functioning as a hive, that's been pulled out of that hive. They know it's their queen. So you've got that great benefit. To me, yeah, that's awesome. If you've got that chance to buy something with an established queen, do it. She's mated and laying, so she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. She's producing. And there's no interruption of cycle. There's no lull. With a package, you get probably 4 or 5 days before the queen could possibly start laying, because they're always going to track through the whole hive and see what's going on.
Depending on whether they have comb or not, too.
Right, depending on whether they have comb.
They got to build that comb.
If it's a package and you've got no drawn comb in your hive, she's going to have to wait for that to happen. She's going to have to wait for that to get drawn. And it takes quite a bit for a bee to make wax. Quite a bit of honey, nectar for a bee to make wax. So you can see, kind of weighing the scale of what's better so far.
You got comb.
Whole hives. There's whole hives for sale out there. You can buy them singles and double deeps. They're kind of expensive, you know, and they're rare to come up with, because if I got a whole hive, why would I want to get rid of it? You know, that's there's for typical beekeeper, they're not going to say, oh, I've got too many whole hives. They're going to say, hey, worst case, like winter if they lose something, then they've got extra resources for another hive and to build on. So it's rare to see whole hives come up for sale. When somebody moves, I've seen them come up for sale that way. They're already established and productive. They're already producing honey. It's a well-balanced hive, hopefully. When you go to buy them, look them over. Check them over, make sure everything's good inside. Make sure you can identify a queen in there. She's laying. Somebody in here, maybe it was last meeting, bought 3 hives out of from a lady that was selling them. And he got into them and realized, ooh, this is, one of the hives was good. One of them was not queen rate, and the other one was pretty much dead. And he looked at them, and then he renegotiated his price on them. So keep that in mind when you're looking at stuff like that. Swarms, they're almost free.
That's an expensive one all the way up high though.
Yeah, this swarm trap's
That's
up on a
cheating.
deer stand, okay, for safety. I don't know how many, anybody here use deer stands for swarm traps?
Bought a nice
the
one
off
last
season?
year in a deer
Yeah,
stand.
it's a nice way to
Love
do
'em.
it. Nice way to do it. One of the problems with swarms is disease. You never know why they swarmed. Maybe they swarmed because they were doing great. Maybe they swarmed because they were so heavily infested with other bugs that they had to get out. What other reasons do bees swarm?
Another queen born.
Overcrowding.
Overcrowding, yeah. That's a
Things are good.
normal response.
good.
Things are good.
Time to upgrade.
Anything else?
Hive box could have been knocked over. They abscond for disease.
Yeah, they abscond. Yeah.
Because the hive was damaged.
Yeah.
Or
Heavy mite
just kind of
loads
problem.
sometimes, yeah. And get out, right? So,
But it's typically the older queen that's gonna swarm.
yeah, the older queen that's going to swarm, you're right about that. And she's not going to be as productive as a new queen that was replaced in the hive. So keep that in mind. Sometimes you'll want to look at, hey, I got a swarm, but maybe I should think about putting a new queen in there, because that can sometimes break the swarm cycle too. Sometimes they just keep swarming and keep moving on and moving on and moving on. So sometimes that's a way you can break that cycle. All right, break time. Thank you.
Is it a bad thing for a hive to swarm?
Yes.
It's bad.
75% of all swarms never make it. So,
Hey, before we break on that, I just want to add a little something. So, package of bees is going for how much?
125?
125,
Yeah, for
130 bucks.
yeah.
Nuke's going for
150.
150.
Yeah.
Most hobbies I've got into have never been cheap. Beekeeping isn't either. Think about that $15 or that $20, I mean, when I first started, I got packages, and even now I've got 13 hives. I'll probably have 12. I'm hoping to have 12 coming into spring. I'm still going to I'm going to bring a couple of packages in just for some new new stock.
Some new genetics.
New genetics
bloodlines,
to
yeah.
bring in. I mean, I requeen with different queens during the year, but I'm also kind of hedging a little bit in case I don't come out with 12. I've got a little something there.
You got to, yep.
And believe me, if I don't need them, I know somebody else is going to want them. So
I'll take one.
I've done that every year too. So the nukes are really, and I'm going to add one more thing to that. America, we were built on free enterprise. I'm a small business owner. I try to shop local. I try to support those that support me. So, who's selling bees? Crown Feed's not selling bees anymore. Tri Creek Lumber's not selling bees. I just contacted Jake's in Valparaiso again today. They don't even know. They're going to decide in a week or two what they're doing. This is what I was told
Changed
today.
owners last year.
They did.
Yes.
And the new guy's just pretty much overwhelmed with the business. But he does want to continue with the bees. And Jake gave a lot of support to us. And it was a great store there. So I think the guy's just pretty much overwhelmed. We had somebody that posted on our Facebook page of a beekeeper in Naperville or something like that selling nukes. Baston Farms. out of just down by Indy, Carlisle, or not Carlisle, but down by Indy, is supporting us. They have nukes for sale. Jerry has nukes. If anybody else in the club has any, I'm just saying I like to support those who support me or in my area. And I've known people that have bought bees off of Craigslist or, you know, driven out to Joliet that have got them.
Was it Tractor Supply and Couch that had them?
I heard Tractor Supply
Right.
was going to be
Yeah.
doing bees.
Last year I know they did.
So,
They
but,
do.
but you know what? I think
They
it's
have
really good
packages.
to go somewhere who at Tractor Supply really knows about the bees. You need to have a support team there
Yeah.
because
It's $200
I think
for a
out of
package.
the survey,
It's $200 for a package.
$95 for a package.
who?
Tractor Supply.
Yes.
Yeah. And then I don't think that included shipping either.
So just kind of saying, you know, what I started saying, I knew some people that bought things far away, and you know, there was a problem with it. What are you doing to the guy in Joliet? You know, I mean, you can't. It didn't go well. So, you know,
And getting a queen,
No.
trying to introduce a queen.
know who you're buying from. I don't care where they are, but it's like if you hire a subcontractor, check his background, get some referrals. Same way with bees. We work hard for our money, spend it wisely. Yes.
Now, there's probably benefits from buying local too, right? Than like out of state.
Right, and that's something that we're talking about too, is one of the things we want to do in our administrative meetings was we want to focus on local genetics and winter hardy bees, okay? And the way we can do that is by trading bees amongst each other that survive. So we have I'm a queen breeder, so we get overwintered bees. We keep producing queens and keep producing queens from them, and they are hardier and hardier as time goes on, okay? So if you get bees from Florida, California, Georgia, somewhere else, initially in the spring when you get them, you get what you get. When you requeen them with a new queen locally, then you're starting to get those genetics, and by in the summertime, you got all new bees, you know, because the life cycle of a bee is fairly short. So in that time frame, you've regeneticized the hive, given it new genes, and if that's a word, I don't know. But you've got local blood in it, which that's what's important, is to have that hardy genetics in your hive for winter. That's the logic behind it all.
All right.
And trying to introduce a queen is not always the easiest for a brand new beekeeper.
Yep, we've seen them fly away. $35 is going bye-bye, you know?
Yeah.
And this was something we talked about in our administrative meeting too, was how do we start building a stronger local genetics? And it's by doing this. It's by breeding queens. It's by overwintering.
Trading.
Taking our best stock. Trading genetics. That's how we're going to build a better hive and better bees for this area. And that's one of the important factors, I think, of this group, is being able to do that too. Diane?
So when you requeen for a local queen.
Yeah.
So would you do that in like September?
No, I would, as
you
early in the
working
year as I
summer?
could. Let's say, for example, in your situation, you're going to get a nuke, and then, like with us, we offer local queens for $20 a piece if you bought a nuke for the, you know, for that nuke. What you're going to do is you're going to take and replace the queen that's there with a local queen, so that her genetics get into the mix and gets, you know, she replaces the
Like
old
right
genetics.
away, or wait
Yeah, as soon as you
until
can.
later?
As
When-
soon as,
when they're
Yeah,
available.
as soon as they're available. See, we've
Depending
got a
on the weather.
fairly short season in Indiana for producing queens. So when we do, we produce as many as we can in the shortest season, you know, short of time frame as we can.
So you're looking at June, July more.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Not in the fall.
No, not in the fall,
Okay.
because then she's going to just overwinter herself and not be able to pass on very much in the way of genetics, because
Okay.
it's going to be such small clusters, you know, such small
Breeding cycle.
amounts of brood that it's not really going to make that big a deal.
Okay.
Not going to help things.
Mike.
So, Mike.
Are the nukes you're selling, are they overwintered queens that you created locally? or
No,
are they-
no, that's what I'm saying, is they're brought in,
Okay, the nukes
and then
are
you've got the option of buying a local queen for $20 from us to requeen it So you've got those local genetics.
What do you do with the old queen?
So you remove.
Well, personally, what I would do is, I would take and let that build up, split my hive, and have 2 queens. One's going to be the old queen that was there, and then you'll have 2 hives.
All right, let's take that break. And you know what? We're going to make it a quick break.
We talked through the break.
A little bit about the treat for the break. Roger, where are you at? What do you?